Hello, I am Centimus Prime, and here I will be reviewing the LEGO Creator Set number 31130 Sunken Treasure Mission Part 3. Now, first and foremost, we're going to adjust the camera a little first so we can take a look at this set. And of course, we are going to be taking a look at the minifigures first of all. So starting off, we got the diver minifigure. We get a nice look at her back in the first and both in the first and second parts of this review. So there's really not really anything new here. She's still a really nice minifigure with a nice print. She also has with the two-face printing, and of course a nice hairpiece. It's a really neat hairpiece. It's a really nice minifigure, and of course we get another look at the skeleton. Pretty much the same as old Skelly was during the first part of this review. Only this time, he has a little camera. A camera accessory. And it's your prefab, very simple, camera with the clear 1x1 rounded tile as the lens. No, that's standard stuff. Not really much new with the minifigures at all. Still really nice. Just wanted to get those out of the way real quick so we can take a look at the rest of the set of this part of the sets. And first, we're going to start off with this part of the build. This build. And as we can see here, we get this. It's a simple but straight to the point. It's a nice simple rock structure, underwater rock structure. Very nice. Of course, not a whole lot in terms of building techniques and stuff, but your nice simple little landscape sort of build. I will say it is neat how this set, where you don't really see any sort of landscape sort of builds at all, have the parts so you can make some sort of landscape thing if you so choose, which is nice. And of course, there's not a whole lot you could do, with this. It's really meant to be, a backdrop sort of thing, or a playset sort of thing, you know? Mm-hmm. It's your very simple little, rock structure build. And of course you can sit your skeleton minifigure down onto this sort of platform thing. And it could just look like that. It's a simple little build. And that's nice. I will say it doesn't really feel as haphazard as the coral build, but it's also a smaller little build, so there is that. Next up, we get this tiny little sub. So for me, this kind of looks like a sort of shrunken down version of the sub we get up here during the first part. And it's an alright little sub. Now it does have a slightly more stylized look to it compared to the more to the slightly more realistic look that the sub has. But that doesn't mean that it's bad or anything. It reminds me of the more classic. It sort of reminds me of the more classic, like sort of Lego underwater themes, where the builds were more on the simple side and such. And of course you can so starting off, of course you can open this dome windscreen piece up. And we can take a nice look at the interior. Now, of course, we can move that. The interior, it's neat. Of course, you get the dial thing. You do have like these mixel ball joints, sort of acting as like the controls. And there's also like this red. There's also like this red nozzle piece. It's sort of there for details. And of course you can indeed sit the minifigure down into this sub. And of course close that in. And that's what that looks like. Not looking too bad. Here's what it looks like underneath. And I will say that this part feels, even though that this part still feels a little bit out of place, like due to the fact that it's like this color and it kind of doesn't really fit the rest of the build. And I get it. This part has to be like this color in order to fit with the other two builds. But it is still kind of It's still kind of interesting and all that. And then we have like these two bracket pieces that are attached onto here, which sort of act as a sort of landing gear slash display. It's basically like the landing gear sort of thing. I feel like there could be like a little bit more that could be added here to make it not look so bare, as I would say. But it's not too bad. It does what it's supposed to do well. Of course, now turning the build around to the back and the sides. You do get some nice details and stuff. You got the vents on the side. And you have some like what appears to be sort of like exhaust things towards the back, even though I don't think that's what those are supposed to represent, but it's fine. Of course, we got like these smaller turbine things, what are these called? They're like turbine, they're like a turbine, little propeller engines, I think. I think that's what those are. And of course we get the turbo, and of course we can turn around and we can spin these around freely, like in the main build, just like the other submarine. And towards the front, you do get a couple of little headlights that you can rotate. They can rotate them to have them to have the headlights look in different directions. So that's neat. And we do also get like this articulated arm cloth thing And the articulation is a little bit limited, but it's fine. It has, like, you can swivel it around at the base, you can hinge it up and down, and you can hinge this part around. Not a whole lot of articulation for this little claw, but it's fine. Overall, a very simple little submarine build. Not like a whole lot to talk about here, but still, that's still a nice, simple little submarine build. It's neat. And then we take a look at, the what feels like the big point of this part of the build is this giant lobster. And this is compared to the minifigures, this is a huge lobster. Very, very neat. Now the lobster does look pretty nice. I do like some of the building techniques used here. Most notably how the antenna are attached to the head. Very, very neat. Now looking at the lobster from the side, it's a little bit on the simple side. Like, you can definitely see a lot of the parts here that were mainly internal parts in the other builds of the sets, but here they're kind of like here, which is fine. It's fine, I guess. Very neat. The body of the lobster is mainly pretty simple. It's mostly pretty simple. We move down to the tail. The tail is nice. It has a good bit of articulation. Well, a good bit. It's decently articulated. It can flap up and down like this. Like the end of the tail here can hinge up and down, and the back, and this part of the tail can also hinge down. So you do get a little bit of articulation with the lobster, which is neat. Okay, so next we move up to the legs. Now the legs are pretty much built the same. The front ones are using a different piece, but aside from that, the legs are pretty much the same. And they all pretty much have that ball joint sort of articulation. But you can pull off some walking motion with these legs, which is neat. Dang. Taking a look at the face of the lobster, I honestly don't mind it. You do get the eyes, which are looking straight at you. You can rotate these eyeballs so you can have him look in different directions. And you can hinge out the antenna and 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 there's also a hinge down here to do this, but but that hinge is more so there to give you that angle for the antenna, and I don't think it's really used for like articulation. Though I don't though you can't like do something like this where you can't pretend it has like lasers, has like a battle mode, I guess. Like has like these attack lasers. Is something else. Oh yeah, and the eyes are connected to this bar piece, which it can indeed look up and down. Very, very neat. And then we move up to the arms. The arms do also have a fair bit of range of motion. Do get a ball joint here, which can move around. It can rotate and do all that. There's a hinge here at the base of the claw, so you can hinge it back and forth. Can hinge the claws back and forth very nicely, and of course the claws can and of course the claws themselves can open and close, as lobster claws should. Now, like these segments of the arms, they are a little bit. They are like. While I do feel like they could be like tiled off or something, I feel like with the parts, with the parts used in the sets, I feel like it doesn't really. I don't really mind it too much, but certain thing that is kind of weird to me is how the pinchers over here are using these brown ingot pieces over here. And it's not a bad look. I just find it to be kind of strange. Speaking of strange, you may notice that this lobster is red. Obviously. But I find this to be kinda odd, because lobsters aren't really naturally red. You only see them in red when they're being boiled alive. So what does that say about this build? Kinda interesting. You do, you see, if you haven't seen those lobsters at the restaurants, they're red because they've been boiled. Which is fascinating to me how they would choose this color for this set, to have this lobster in this color. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. So I will. Now, notable things I sort of dislike about the lobster is I feel like the body here is a little bit too much on the simple side. I feel like at the very least using some some additional parts to cover up these sides would have been beneficial. to this, and yeah, even though it doesn't bother me too much, it would be preferred if the arms here were a little bit more tiled up. But aside from that, the lobster doesn't look too bad at all. I just find it interesting how they chose red for the sets to have the lobster look red. Because, well, such an odd little detail of the sets. If you know more about the color, about lobsters. Very interesting. So, not a whole lot to talk about this part, like this third part, because they're mostly just simple builds, which hold up pretty well. And I do think they all look pretty good for the most part. Now there are a couple of things about them that look a little bare to me. But aside from that, these builds don't look that bad at all. Very neat. And for my overall thoughts on like this set as a whole, like I've said from the start, there is a large variety of parts that come in this set. Like, you can use the parts in here to build you could build vehicles with the parts in here. You could build a variety of large red creatures. You can build a safe that you can place in your city, in your Lego city. You can build a sort of landscape sort of build. You can build a coral thing. You can build a few of those things at once. Or you could just build something completely different. It is interesting to me the sheer variety of parts that the set has used for. Oop, bumped into the camera. My bad. And overall, I do really enjoy this set a lot. This is an easily recommended set. Because overall, I do really like all three of the creatures. The octopus was pretty good. The lobster, while on the simple side, I do enjoy messing around with its articulation. And even the stingray, which honestly surprised me with how interesting and good it was. And of course, the safe was really nice. I do enjoy the simple yet effective building experience that was the safe. The coral, while not being that fun to I did still have fun with it, but despite the haphazard like haphazard nature of the building process of the coral, it still looks real nice. And the rock structure is a nice, simple rock structure that can be used in your underwater background. And there's also your submarines, which are also pretty cool. So overall, I do recommend this set. It is really good to get. It's really good. I do have a lot of fun with this set, and I do imagine having a lot more fun with the sets once I start getting into like some alternate builds I've been planning to build with this set in particular. Because like I've said, I've already have a few ideas on what I might build using this set. But until then, that'll be it for this review. If you enjoyed this, these 3-in-1, or if these sort of 3-parter reviews, consider to like and subscribe, and maybe even comment if you want. And of course, I will be posting again sooner or later.